I'm going to 765-765. What's your name? Where you calling from, and what's on your mind?
Yeah, hey, Yvette Carnell. This is Jermaine. I'm calling from Dallas. I was the one that called about being a barber in a barbershop, having this discussion.
Yeah, what's up?
Well, today, the reason I had to get through to y'all kind of touched on something like the whole financial literacy thing. And there was a guy on Twitter today, I think it was either today or yesterday, that commented on some guy's post named Damn America. And he was basically talking about how financial literacy is supposed to help us. And so, you know, I dug a little deeper, you know what I mean? I started asking him questions because he was talking about how, if we planned our money, if we were smarter with our money and things like that, we'd be able to pull ourselves into the middle class. So, you know, we asked, you know, a lot of us started asking him questions. Even Sandy Derry came in and spoke to him a little bit about it. And I asked him, I said, so who is your target? You know, you're a financial advisor. Who is your target group? Who are you targeting when you're trying to give this financial advice and things like that? Well, one, where he went wrong at was that he was talking that his target is any individual making between $40,000 to $120,000. And then he went on to explain he had a pride story, a story that he's so proud of. And he was talking about how the woman only made a little under $35,000 a year, and she's getting ready to retire with over $500,000 with a $500,000 retirement plan. So of course I began to ask more questions. I said, and he said that she was married with 3 kids. I asked him, I was like, okay, so how much does the husband make? And he went on to explain that the husband makes a little bit more than her. So I'm guessing they make about anywhere between like $65,000 and $70,000 a year. So I was like, okay. So he goes on to start explaining what she does. First of all, they're both working in government jobs. They've been working in these government jobs for 35 plus years. He goes on to say that they don't have any credit card debt. And me personally, me and my fiance, she's a stylist, I'm a barber. To be honest, me and her probably make maybe $30,000 together, if that. And I said, I said, damn, if we made $70,000 a year, we wouldn't have no financial burdens either. At least on that level.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So I was like, you know, and I told him, I was like, well, the average black family only makes $38,000 together. So he goes on to further explain, like, they avoid credit card debt, which obviously if you make $70,000 a year, how often would you have to take out a credit card? Because I know I wouldn't. He said they invested regularly in mutual funds, but that's because they had a brother who had who had knowledge on how to do so. And he said of that $500,000 that they accumulated, only $75,000 of it was principal. So what I'm assuming is that they had 401k plans. So I just wanted to get you guys' opinion, because I'm like, you're not working with, I'm like, you really are working with an aberration of Black America, because that's not the average Black American. Most of us aren't doing that. Most of us don't have jobs like that. And if we do,
but that's what they do.
I'm sorry, what?
But that's what they do, fam. They use aberrations, right? So they find aberrations, the boomers who had government jobs and are anchored in stability, a stability that's gone, a stability that doesn't exist anymore. And they anchor us in that stability, and they say, see, you could be that too. Not understanding that, thank you, Ava, I see a whole lot of stuff since I'm sitting over here. But not understanding that, like, that stability doesn't exist anymore. And since we don't know enough, we say, yeah, you're right. If we just did X, Y, and Z, we could do it too. We're just messing ourselves up. The government ain't the problem. Reparations ain't the problem. The problem is that we just not doing what that couple does. Understand that you don't have that couple's opportunity. You have to measure the opportunity. You have to measure the advantage.
You want to know what's crazy about that, Yvette? Is that even when you look at that couple he was referring to, his pride story, they both make $80,000 a year together. They only have $500,000 in 401k. I broke that down over 15 years, and it would literally cut their income in half when they retire. They're gonna literally put them right back in the poorhouse the moment they retire. And if they pull out together, and if they both draw from that just to maintain their income level, that $500,000 to be gone in half the amount of years. So I don't even see how this is a pride story for him, because I remember a show or two ago. I remember a few shows back when you were talking about retirement plans where we right now, just to live, you need about $2 or $3 million to retire on.
Yep.
Yeah, but their situation might be different. Their situation might be different because they're government workers, so they might have health care covered, and then they might have think they like one of them little government pensions.
All the things would come. All the things that came with, like, you know, what used to be with working. What used to happen in terms of I work for government, people used to say that because there were a lot of benefits that came from it. If they're from that era, they're gonna get them benefits.
The other thing that, you know, Yvette's gonna pull up an image right now. We've talked about this in another forum. This has the third line, which is the 9.9. One of the things that I'm hearing in your call, and I'm not, you've listened in, but I want to make sure you understand it because you're analyzing the world as though it's flat. And that's doing a disservice to you. When I say flat, normally in a society, between two generations, you don't see this kind of fluctuation in economics. So then you're able to say the things you're saying and compare yourself to them, and you don't see this kind of fluctuation in less than 10 years or 20 years. In this society, we've inverted over the last, since you were born, basically, to a point where this is the most unequal place on the planet. And this person's talking about, I mean, in modern society, I'm sorry. And this person's talking about financial literacy. Again, I'm pulling up, this chart is the same one that we've seen, where we only seen the bottom 90 and the top 0.1, but it has the third line, which is the 9.9. And if you look, the 9.9 has seen a dip as well. That's the gold line in the amount of wealth share they have, and they're not trying to come off nothing. That's the people that have $1.2 million to like $7 million in worth, white folks. So we are in the bottom 90, which is the black line. And if you look, the last time it crossed was the Depression, and we're in the bottom part of the bottom 90. And these people came into a barbershop with a black man only trying to get home and do his job, and tried to make him feel bad for not having savings because they were born into what they call the Great Compression. And not a lot of people have used that term, but an author used it. I shared it on the video I did on Jay-Z. It's the era after the Depression. So you look at the lines crossing right after 1930. Well, the Great Compression is when the black line rises. And that it created your grandparents' life, your father's life, and that was affirmative action, the New Deal. That's because there was fear that there was going to be rebellion because the poor had so little. Well, we're crossing again because since then, since the peak of that, Reagan introduced trickle down, Bush continued it. You look at Clinton continued it as well. Obama continued it, and Trump continued it. And they led to a world, all of those politicians, where now the lines crossed again in your life. So this is called, in that era from 1980 to now, it's called the Great Divergence. So let me say it again. We all talk about the Great Depression, but we don't talk about the Great Compression, C-O-M-P-R-E-S-S-I-O-N, and the Great Divergence. So the Great Compression on this chart is when this line is going up, the black line. That's when basically you see the bottom 90, these people you're talking about, able to take labor and make it into assets. Well, our life, our entire life from when we were little, not even when you were adult, has been shifting into something called the Great Divergence, where the wealthy take back America. And now you're a grown adult, and we're at the most unequal time in American history, including slavery. And I don't think everybody understands that.
Oh, yeah. No,
they didn't understand that in their shop.
A lot of people don't understand that.
No, they didn't understand that in their shop. I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be a lot of depression. There's going to be a lot of infighting. There's going to be a lot of random thoughts of what you should do because nobody understands how unequal it is and what that inequality actually brings about. Me personally, I don't know what, I wouldn't have said nothing to them because you don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, you spin your wheels.
Yeah, I was in the barbershop on Saturday and I was arguing with a couple of boomers. And one of them, he was in the Army, wound up going into aviation. The other one, he worked in a steel mill or something like that for the last 30, 40 plus years. And I was like, man, we don't live in the same lives. I'm like, y'all are speaking down on my generation as if we have the same opportunities that y'all had. And that's just not true. And you know,
it's actually worse. Caller, it's actually worse. Black boomers, according to even Dr. Kevin Cosby, whose church was built by them, might have been the luckiest black population in American history. In fact, they are. Like black boomers of this, they experienced the greatest moment of black achievement in American history. Because you gotta realize there was slavery, there was slavery, there was the small moment of Reconstruction, but this group of blacks that rose to, and it wasn't all black boomers, but it was a chunk where, you know, you, your friends, all of y'all, high school educated or not, bought homes together. And I don't think that they understand that that was because everybody did it together. It still was a lottery win of timing. And I don't know if that ever comes back. And I think the gift of both of our respective programs has been to tell black folks that are behind the boomers, one, it's not your fault, and two, if you hook to a boomer, be quiet. Stop talking.
I want to thank you for calling in, Carlos.